The science we make here at EPFL is for the most part funded with public money. It should therefore be freely accessible for the benefit of society. Implementing this is tricky though. But why? Let's rewind. Traditionally, to access the content of a paper, there are two options. Either the paper is behind a paywall and the reader needs to pay to access it. Either we, as researchers and institutions, pay the journal to directly publish it in open access. In research, the currency of success is determined by which journal a scientist publishes in. But if an article is published in a prestigious journal, does it really mean we can take its content for granted? And how much does this whole system cost us?
I believe open access is important because openness is the original mode of operation of research, and no progress was ever made by withholding knowledge. So open access is not just important, but the obvious standard and non-negotiable. For the publication year 2021, we at the SNSF recently measured that 76% of all publications coming from SNSF-funded research were open access. Right now, the questions around sustainability become more important. So the cost of scholarly publishing, as well as the quality of services and the quality of the published content. And for-profit publishers are trying to use OA to sustain and increase their extreme profit. So these aspects will have to be addressed very soon.
If we consider the contract paid by the library and the open access fees that are paid directly by the labs, EPFL invests more than 2 million Swiss francs per year. The costs have more than doubled over the past 5 years. And there are multiple reasons for that. In research-intensive institutions such as EPFL, the number of publications published in open access keep increasing. Meanwhile, the journal cost and the APC cost keep increasing. Just as an example, for Cell and for Nature, the APCs for each article are $10,000 each.
This is indeed not sustainable, and it's time we make some choices.
Gold Open Access explains a model of publication where the peer-reviewed version of an article is published in a fully open journal without restrictions on the day of publication. Often, there is a fee to be paid to cover the costs of reviewing and the publishing service, a so-called article processing charge or an APC. Hybrid, on the other hand, means that an article is open, but it's been published in a journal where not all the other articles are open. A big flaw with the hybrid model is that it creates a patchy access to knowledge. Hybrid is also responsible for a massive increase in cost of publishing because it has led to what is sometimes called a double dipping effect. That institutions have to pay a subscription to the journal on the one hand to see and read all the content that isn't open, and they also pay to open those articles that they produce and want to make accessible through open access. There are many benefits to Gold Open Access. The first one is immediate access for anyone everywhere. It's also accessible forever. It's a business model that allows the journals to continue the long term. It's not dependable on project funding or on short-term funding. It's machine readable and AI ready, as most open access is, and it's published under a CC BY license, and there is no transfer of copyright. I think the fee or the APC that I mentioned before can obviously become a new type of barrier. It has to be understood that quality publishing services have a cost, and there has to be a debate about the cost and how much it costs to publish quality science. But the importance and what I would say one of the benefits of the APC is that it brings transparency and allows that debate to take place.
Green open access is also called self-archiving, and it's when the accepted version of a publication is disseminated through an institutional repository, such as AFOScience in the case of EPFL, or through a disciplinary repository such as arXiv, after a period of embargo imposed by the publisher. In terms of advantages, At the end of the embargo period, the accepted version of the paper is fully and freely available. Then, I believe there is increased discoverability since papers deposited in AFOScience are very well indexed by Google Scholar, by OpenAIRE and other search engines. And third, there's the aspect of perennial access, since the publication deposited in an IR is accessible at all times, independently from the publisher's platform. In terms of limitation, green open access is very often viewed by researchers as an admin burden because it entails extra work in terms of dealing with the publisher's policies, as well as keeping track of the version of the manuscript. The second one is copyrights, since in many cases the author rights are retained by the publisher. And then there is the embargo period.
Diamond Open Access, or sometimes also referred to as Platinum Open Access, is a scholarly publishing model where authors and readers aren't charged any fees. This makes it equitable because access isn't limited based on affordability. At the same time, and importantly, authors retain the copyrights of their works, which gives them full control of their publications. And by publishing Diamond Open Access, researchers also strengthen the publication outlets and the diversity of the publication outlets in their field. The most challenging limitation for Diamond Open Access is the lack of sustainable funding opportunities and recognition from institutions that would help Diamond Open Access outlets to improve their operations, their outreach, and also their visibility. Also, there is the preconception that Diamond Open Access outlets are less reputable, even though their quality standard is usually high, and even though APCs do not necessarily buy high prestige